Good morning and welcome to the C-Suite at the Open series. I'm here with Alvaro Torres from Khiron Life Sciences Corp, listed on the TSX Venture. Welcome, Alvaro.
Monica, hello, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good, I'm very well, thank you. Alvaro, just first question, what are the three things you would like to highlight about Khiron?
Well, first I would say Khiron is a medical cannabis company that's based in Colombia. We are focused on a B2C market, medical cannabis in Latin America and Europe. So right now, we just recently announced that we've reached 3,000 prescriptions in Colombia. We started in March 20. It's a significant accomplishment because, it's the first time medical cannabis has been sold in our country. So I would say that's a major highlight of this, let's say Q3 that we just finished. So I'm very excited about that, particularly doing it in the middle of the pandemic with all these issues that are happening worldwide. I would say second, even in these last 3 months, we've been able now to start sales in Colombia, in Peru, and in the UK. So that's also very exciting for us because it starts to show that there's a real international market that's just at the first stages of the first inning of the baseball game, and whereas everybody's talking about Canada and US, which are far more advanced, I think in LATAM and Europe, we're just really beginning. So that's very exciting. And of course, for my company, more excited to know that we are already in 3 countries of the jurisdictions that we're in. I would say thirdly, the pandemic has hit us all quite difficult, quite hard, of course. We saw a second quarter that was very difficult, very challenging for us. But, going into fourth quarter now, I can see that we are doing a tremendous recovery out of that Q2, and that's also very exciting because being able to sell, growing patients, growing prescriptions in 3 jurisdictions, things like that, that starts to give me a lot of positivity for what's going to happen in the future. So I would say those are the 3 things, 3,000 patients in Colombia, sales in Colombia, Peru, and UK, and we are coming out of our most difficult quarter in Q2. So all very exciting things.
That is very exciting. What does being listed on the TSX Venture mean for your company and your stakeholders?
Well, I guess I would say I have many answers to that question. Personally, it was a very proud moment. Khiron was the first Colombian non-resource-based type of company, so no oil and mining company that actually went public in the TSX from Colombia. So it was a major milestone for our country, and I think that opens a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs all across LATAM. These type of things are not done every day. I think, in fact, after us, a lot of other cannabis companies out of Colombia took that example and started going public, and I think that's always going to be a very significant, proud moment for us. I would say for shareholders and stakeholders means also, being now in a market that's very transparent. You're dealing with cannabis, and you're dealing, I know this is tough to say for me, but we're a Canadian company, but we're a Colombian startup, let's say. And to be honest, being able to break that barrier of being Colombian in a transparent system where you have all these policies, you have all these ways of doing things transparently, it also breaks a lot of barriers when you're trying to raise capital and be successful. So that was very important for us to start with, so that the banks, the insurance companies in our countries, employees, and other stakeholders would say, well, if this company in cannabis, which is very new, is now validated as being, let's say, as a top transparent company because they're in the TSXV, that opens doors that I never really had with other businesses before. So I think the fact that we were able to do that was very significant. But I would say thirdly, in the day-to-day, trading your stock and talking to investors and being able to have channels like this one that you're providing today to be able to chat and talk to investors about what's happening are tools that it would be very difficult to find for a company like ours, cannabis out of Colombia, anywhere else. So we're very grateful and thankful that we were able to go this route, and I'm very proud of the fact that it's already been 2.5 years since we went public. So it seems like a long time, but we're still very early stages still.
Well, we love having you. What are some of the near-term catalysts we should be watching for?
Well, from the beginning, we've said that we want to start growing our expansion globally. So, we're looking forward to starting in Brazil. We're looking forward to starting in Germany. Of course, looking forward to keep growing sales, in all of our markets, particularly Colombia, which is, our first where we really started. Mm-hmm. Took us 12 weeks to get to our first 1,000 patients. Now it takes us 3 weeks to get 1,000 patients. So when you start seeing that type of growth, that all gets very exciting. Of course, you cannot talk about cannabis without talking about COVID. We've done a tremendous transformation of our company since COVID started. Almost 20% of our consultations for cannabis come from telehealth. So I'm looking forward to continue growing all that and implementing all that technology so that we can access a lot more patients, through technology. And of course, now that things are, progressing in terms of COVID and all across our regions, it just starts to build a really good foundation that will be very ready to exploit once the situation, the pandemic starts to get reduced. So global expansion, keep growing. We are already sort of past all of these regulation hurdles that we saw before. Mm-hmm. So now we are ready to get into execution mode. And I cannot tell you how exciting it is not to have to look at regulation every day, and now start to focus on actual sales. So that's really, really important.
Very good. And finally, how would you sum up your investment proposition for Khiron?
Well, we are not in the commodity business. We believe in the global cannabis industry, medical cannabis. We believe that we are positioned as a brand that can dominate the international markets of medical cannabis, particularly Latam and Europe, where we're talking about a combined population of almost a billion people in a market that's really not untapped, where we're clearly leaders in Latam, at least by the doctors and the patients. We are in the early stages of medical cannabis in the rest of the world. The Canadian and the US experience have helped us a lot to be able to build that leadership. I think if you want to play into the medical cannabis industry that's actually taking over a lot of these old school pharmaceutical type of products, we are in very early stages. And I think, if you look at Canada and the United States, these are markets that have been doing this for more than 5-6 years, no? And in Latam, we just started 4 months ago. And so, this is a new opportunity that has nothing to do really with the difficulties of what's happening in the Canadian market, but it's a way to be able to look into a new medication that's going to help a lot of people, that's going to become the new norm in the next 10 years, substituting a lot of opiates for medical cannabis that's made of quality. We have the opportunity to make this type of products at a very low cost, but with very high quality. And the more patients that we get and the more brand that we can build, then we can become more sustainable and in a market that is just really starting. So this is like going back to Canada 5 years ago. Wouldn't you want to be one of the first people to get into cannabis in Canada 5 years ago? Maybe not now, but 5 years ago for sure. So this is what I feel that Latam and Europe are at right now, and the competition's getting a little bit lower because all the Canadian and the US companies that were used to think more globally are now focused on their own markets. So that leaves a lot of opportunity for companies like ours who are clearly market leaders and key opinion leaders in the industry in a market that's going to be growing tremendously. We are in the very early stages. So I would say that's the early stage advantage of Latam and Europe in medical cannabis.
Very good. Well, we'll certainly be watching how Khiron moves forward. And thank you for being with us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate your invitation. And thank you for being so supportive of us. And thank you for the opportunity.